It's just gone 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I'm at the airport and I'm ready to fly. But, this is the start of a very long journey and in essence a 5-week trip, so a big trip. Normally I would take you on individual flight reviews. This time I'm bringing you along for the entire journey. 31 hours or so, maybe a little bit more, from Adelaide through Singapore all the way to Amsterdam. Australia's a long way from anywhere, so these sorts of trips are, well, we're used to it. For the rest of the world, not so much. Join me and we'll see what it's like. We'll step into the warm embrace of Singapore Airlines and fly to Amsterdam. Let's go. We're checking in, the time has started. We'll see how long this journey to Amsterdam takes.
After check-in, it was straight through security and down to the newish international departures area. I've only used this a couple of times since it opened, and this was my first time since the opening of the new business class lounge. It's one generic lounge shared by all airlines. It was bright and new and covered all the must-haves, including good coffee and a variety of food and drink options.
And it's time to fly. It's a nice little lounge, this, brand new.
As the Qatar 777 was parked just up from our aircraft, I quickly filmed the closing piece to camera for my latest Qatar behind the scenes video on their Integrated Operations Centre. If you haven't seen that video, definitely check it out as I venture into the beating heart at the very centre of Qatar's global operation. Here's the link up in the corner. I'll also put it in the description below. Soon though, it was time to board for this first hop to Singapore.
As we get close to 1 hour and 40 minutes since I started this trip, it's time to officially sit back, relax and start the Singapore Airlines experience. Cheers, here's to a great flight. Pineapple juice, it's good.
The first leg to Singapore was on a Boeing 787 featuring Singapore Airlines Regional Business Class. This is the product they're flying to all Australian cities except Melbourne and Sydney. The business class cabin is laid out in a 1-2-1 configuration so that all passengers have direct aisle access. For me, the choice seat is always those closest to the windows, as these are more private and you can look out the window. The seats themselves are very comfortable and have all the bells and whistles you'd expect from a modern business class seat. If I can be picky though, my only gripe is that the wraparound does restrict your shoulder space and elbow space when you're working. The purpose of this seat wrap is to help you sleep as it's covered in noise abating fabric. Not long after takeoff, a drink was served from the bar. With a long trip ahead, I stuck to sparkling cloud juice. Meanwhile, most of the cabin went with bubbles, including refills. This crew was excellent, but then all Singapore Airlines crews generally are. Lunch was served a couple of hours out of Adelaide. Here's a look at the food section of the menu. I'll show you the extensive drink offerings at the end of the video. The starter was a smoked salmon Caesar salad, which I accompanied with garlic bread. How was it? I'll let the pictures do the talking. For main course, I took advantage of Singapore Airlines' famous Book the Cook service, which allows you to pre-book your main course from a much wider selection of dishes. For me, at the start of the trip, it was all about comfort food, and I was soon presented with the biggest, juiciest and tastiest burger I've ever had in the sky. Here's a look at all the options for dessert. For me, it was time for the healthy combo of saturated fat and fresh fruit. I then spent the next couple of hours relaxing and marvelling at the incredible patterns and shapes of the Australian outback landscape. It really is stunning. I also connected to the free in-flight Wi-Fi, which worked well. I'll show you Singapore Airlines' excellent KrisWorld entertainment system on the second leg to Amsterdam. Eventually it was time for a nap. Before I show you the seat and bed mode, here's a quick look at the amenities we were provided with for this flight: slippers, socks and an eye mask. Other stuff was available on request or in the bathrooms, as you'll now see.
It's about 3.5 hours into the flight and it is time for a quick loo review. At this time of the flight, we should start to see some signs of wear and tear, so let's see how we're going. Nice big mirror here. Oh, proper cotton hand towels, that's lovely. Some shavers and potions and lotions. Amenities in here. Toothbrushes, tissues, sink, cups, don't drink the water. 2 coat hooks, that's fancy. A full-length mirror, some flowers, plastic, a handle for bracing, and look at the size of this baby change table. They must have very long babies travelling with Singapore Airlines. That's the loo review on Singapore Airlines business class on the 787.
Now, back to the bed. This was actually really good, with bedding provided and the seat wrap helping to reduce the cabin noise. And footroom wise, these seats are much better than Singapore Airlines long haul business class seats, which I'll show you later in the video. Post nap, I recharged with an espresso and did some work. I was still too full from lunch to have anything else from the snack menu. Eventually it was time to start our descent into Singapore, with some great views of the clouds and the ships on the way in.
It's been our pleasure serving you on this flight. Thank you for flying Singapore Airlines and member of Star Alliance.
Cabin crew also disarmed, thank you.
And that is the first hop done. Now quite a few hours in Singapore, and it's on to Amsterdam. Thank you very much. That was really lovely. Thank you. Enjoy your holiday. Thank you. Bye-bye. So it's just coming up to 3 p.m. in the afternoon here at Singapore. Unfortunately, my flight to Amsterdam doesn't depart until midnight tonight. That's one of the prices we pay living in Adelaide, but it is a great place to live, so I wouldn't change that. But they only have one flight a day with Singapore Airlines. We're hoping to change that too, if you're listening Singapore Airlines. Which means that often we do have the longer connections depending on where you're flying to from here. So Amsterdam also only has one flight a day. 9 hours is a long time at any airport, but luckily this is one of the world's best airports. So normally what I would do is I'd head to the lounge, have a shower, get some work done and relax and maybe go for a bit of a walk for exercise. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend the next few hours filming a video of 9 things to do at Changi without visiting the Jewel. 9 things to do in 9 hours without visiting the Jewel. The reason for that is that there's a whole lot of rigmarole you've got to go through to visit the Jewel, but I'll cover that in the video. Sounds like a really good reason to subscribe.
I'll put the link to the Changi video in the description below once it's been released. In the meantime, here's a quick sneak peek at why this is one of the world's best airports. Changi video filmed. It took a little bit longer than what I thought. It's a massive airport. It should come out well though. I've now retreated to the lounge, quick bite to eat, and then I'm have a shower and get some work done, which is generally what I do on these longer layovers. Head to the lounge, have a coffee, have something to drink, something to eat, and try and catch up with all the stuff that I didn't do before I left home. That to-do list never ends. It's pretty sure it's the same for everybody. This is a really nice lounge. It's the KrisWorld lounge, or the SilverKris lounge, the main business class lounge for Singapore Airlines here in Terminal 3, which is their newer and best terminal. I had seen it in stages of being open, but this is the first time I've seen it in full action, and it's busy, but lots of food options, including fresh food being made, etc. There's a bar and lots of different seating options. So wander around and you will find a quiet spot like what I've done. Shower time. And in news that will surprise no one, that feels a lot better. Always recommend a shower. Almost 17 hours after checking in Adelaide, it's now time to leave the lounge. My flight departs in an hour and 10 minutes from Changi, so let's pack up and we'll head to the gate. So gate's just behind me. Before I go in through security there, got a question for you. What would you do in this situation? See, Singapore Airlines doesn't have dining on demand, so I'm assuming about an hour and a half after takeoff, they're going to serve us dinner. Flight leaves at midnight here. Midnight here is 1:30 a.m. In Adelaide, my body clock. So by the time I get fed, we have that dinner, it's going to be at least 3 o'clock in the morning, Adelaide time. So a situation like that, dining on demand would be great. I'd just go and have a sleep. However, it is about a 12-hour flight or something like that. We arrive at 7 a.m. in the morning. So there is actually an argument for staying awake now, having a meal, then having a sleep, waking up just before we arrive to have breakfast, and then have the full day in Amsterdam. What would you do? Would you prefer dining on demand and having a sleep potentially, or do you like this set meal system and try and get into that European body clock? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, let's get this show on the road and fly to Amsterdam. Let's go. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
We are safe like well.
Yeah, I just have it really. Thank you.
16A is the window seat on your right.
Fantastic. Thank you. Champagne, please. The only way to start a flight. Thank you. Next stop, Amsterdam. Cheers. It's a great flight.
Welcome aboard Singapore Airlines.
Soon after takeoff, the crew sprang into action, and in no time I was enjoying a much needed single malt, served with warm roasted nuts. Whilst I was enjoying this, I could hear the crew preparing dinner. So as they do that, let me quickly show you the Singapore Airlines long-haul business class cabin. Like the regional business class, it's configured in a 1-to-1 layout so that all passengers have direct aisle access. The big difference with these seats though is they are much wider. I'd say they're probably the widest business class seats in the sky. Clad in leather with warm brown tones, they're both comfortable and, like the cabin, give off a luxurious vibe. This was a full flight, but you wouldn't know it as the high seat walls give a great sense of privacy and the wide seats a sense of space. Each pod or seat has all the mod cons you'd expect. For sitting, eating and working at least, these seats are excellent. Dinner followed soon after. I hadn't pre-ordered anything via the Book the Cook service for this sector, as I wasn't sure what I'd feel like. Here's a quick look at the food section of the menu, and just a reminder, I show the very extensive drinks list in full at the end of the video. Dinner started with hot smoked salmon salad, which was very tasty.
That one actually looks really good.
The cheese bread for you?
Yeah, fantastic.
Try the garlic as well?
Oh, why not? Lovely, thank you.
Not at all. There you go.
Great,
enjoy.
thank you.
For mains, I went with the fish, which was seared fillet of barramundi with red capsicum and lemongrass sauce. The fish was cooked to perfection. Dessert and cheese was offered, but I politely declined. By now it was over 19.5 hours since I started this journey, and I had well and truly hit the wall. My only priority was to sleep. The seat back folds forward to create a very wide flat bed. That's the good bit. In a previous video, I expressed my dislike for these seats in bed mode, as they are best suited to one-legged pirates or very short people. This is because the space where your feet go really only fits 1 foot when you're lying on your back. Side sleepers who don't move are fine, but I tend to toss and turn and fall asleep on my back, which in these seats is hard. That said, my body clock was at 3 AM and I quickly passed out. I managed 4 hours of sleep and then, after another hour of failing to get back to sleep, gave up and had some tea and biscuits instead. Meanwhile, the rest of the cabin kept sleeping. I connected to Singapore Airlines' excellent free in-flight Wi-Fi and discovered that most of the airspace in the Middle East had been closed at short notice due to the tensions between Israel and Iran. The travel and aviation industry works quickly in these situations, and I checked in with our Bunnik Tours operations team, who were already busy at work helping impacted travellers. With Iranian airspace closed, our flight was also taking the longer route to Europe. We'd now be flying via Tajikistan, Uzbekistan and over Azerbaijan and Georgia to the north coast of Turkey. This trip had just gotten even longer. Then, as we were flying over Georgia and we hit the 27.5 hour mark, I decided to crank up the laptop and start doing some work on this video. These seats are excellent for the business traveller needing to work. Before we have breakfast, let me show you the amenities offered on this flight. Again, amenities kits were only provided on request, so I requested one. It was pretty basic, but then most of the other items were available individually or in the bathrooms. Slippers were again provided, but sadly Singapore Airlines does not offer PJs on their long-haul business class flights. By now the cabin was starting to wake up and it was time for breakfast. Here's what was on offer. I started with a smattering of fruit, continued on with a croissant and some lovely Adelaide Hills strawberry jam, and topped it all off with some pancakes with apples and vanilla yogurt, and a couple of strong shots of caffeine. Now the last thing I should show you before we arrive in Amsterdam is the KrisWorld entertainment system. Is it as good as Emirates? No. But is it excellent? Yes, definitely. There are lots of viewing, listening and playing options. Sadly, the live TV wasn't working on this sector, but the rest worked well. I even gave one of the guided meditations in the wellness section a go, so I'd arrive in Amsterdam all zenned up. But in reality, the best meditation for me was looking out the window as we came through the clouds and the Dutch landscape unfolded below us. I even managed a glimpse of a few of the tulip fields in bloom.
Welcome to Amsterdam, ladies and gentlemen. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened until the seatbelt sign is on. It's been a pleasure having you on this flight. Thank you for flying Singapore Airlines, member of Star Alliance.
Cabin crew, Dr. Lisan, please.
that was a really, really nice flight. Finally got to Amsterdam.
Bye.
Thank you, bye-bye. We'll see you next time. Enjoy Amsterdam. Bye-bye. Hello. That was a really good flight. Now, we'll see when I pick up my bag exactly how many hours that was, but it feels good to be back in Holland, Nederland. I seem to be making a habit of this, dropping the bag. So, finally arrived, 32 hours and 48 minutes after dropping off my bag in Adelaide. I've made it to Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, the country of my birth. So, looking forward to popping in here and various other places to eat some nice food while I'm here. Look, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment. Let me know if you'd fly Singapore Airlines based on this experience. I've always found them really good, especially the crew. The Singapore Airlines crew are always just so lovely. If you haven't done so, please check out my channel where there's a whole lot of more flight reviews, more on the way, including some really cool behind the scenes stuff coming up and already on there too. If you haven't done so, please do consider subscribing. It means a lot. In the meantime, hang around now and I'll show you the rest of the menus. And as always, happy travels.